I guess we'll get started here. I certainly appreciate the time and the attendance. I'm overwhelmed and so thankful for the opportunity to come speak to you. My name is Chuck Jones. I'm your account technology strategist with Microsoft. I actually live in West Tennessee, came in last night, and very fortunate to have Preston Peine here with us today, and he's going to talk about Office 365. I know the advisory committee kind of pulled this together in a week, and so we certainly appreciate that. And I'm going to sit down and let the man behind the curtain here do some talking. And if you have questions, our job here today is to help inform you around Office 365, tools, best practices. We have an agenda here, but don't let the agenda drive the conversation. If you have something, we have a wonderful catch box, which I'm very impressed with, and we'll throw this to you, right? And so if you have a question, feel free to shout it out, because that's what we're here for, is to make the most use of your time this morning. So Preston, you're off.
Awesome. Just here, I'll let you take this if you want, Chuck, and just hold on to that. Just do me a favor though, man. Throw it to people, not at them. There's a subtle difference there. I think that's important. So productivity is the engine that drives humanity. It's really what propels society forward. It's the promise of technology is to allow us to do more with less effort, but productivity has to be reinvented for a world where endless devices, data, apps, and social networks all compete for our very finite time and attention. I wish I could take credit for that profound statement, but those are the words of Satya Nadella, our CEO at Microsoft. That came from an internal memo, which I probably shouldn't have put into this recorded meeting, shortly after he took office. Luckily for me, as CEO took office, like he's the president of the country or something. In my world, he is. I drink a lot of the Kool-Aid. But shortly after Satya took over the helm of Microsoft is when I came to work here. And so I have had the fortunate time of getting to sort of live the cultural change that he's created inside of Microsoft. I start the conversation there only because I get asked to come and have these talks, and people want to know, what's the roadmap look like? Where's Microsoft going? What's happening with it? What you're going to find out is we're not going to have a conversation about where is this tool going? Where's that tool going? We'll talk a little bit about those things as we do this, but I want to talk more about the why and what do we see happening, and get you guys thinking about how do you extrapolate that information and look into the future yourself. How do you start to see this so that you don't have to rely on Chuck or I to come and sort of tell you that, but you can start to take some of that in and look at what are the core cues. You guys as consumers of Microsoft's services, as those professionals who make your living by implementing those and rolling them out, actually probably have seen the substantial change in Microsoft's tooling that we send out, but also probably just in the approach to how we do things over the last 4 years. And that's primarily because of a culture shift that Satya brought into Microsoft, which does affect every one of you because it has changed us all the way to the core of how we release software, how we release software updates. Part of that means we screw up along the way a lot, okay? So you're also going to find out in this conversation, I am not the Microsoft apologist. That's not in my title nor my job description. So I'm willing to admit where we screwed up. Every week I get the privilege of having a phone call with IT pros from all over the region. We have well over 500 of your peers in a community that communicate on a regular basis about what's going on inside of Microsoft, how to manage it, what are the security capabilities. As a matter of fact, that's happening later today from your campus. When we have that call, we never record it, not ever. So we won't have quite that same conversation here, but we'll get close, right? But you guys are all certainly welcome to join that if you want. It gets pretty nerdy though. It's probably not a 100 or 200 level conversation for those who are on it. It's fun. It can get a little ridiculous at times, in my opinion, which is what I like about it. So if anybody is interested in that, I'll put up, here is the address to go join it. If me and this pen can get along anyway. It's pretty hard to remember. MS Office Hours, all one word, .com. Told you it's hard. Okay, so you guys can go there, you can sign up, you can join us. We do it every Thursday at 3 p.m. So it's more of this type of stuff, just less about what's going on necessarily in your organization, more about what are your peers up to and what's happening. But again, we kind of do sometimes it's about roadmap stuff, once a month we do that. Other times it's about security or different things. I want to kind of set the tone a little bit today. I did not bring a PowerPoint deck. I'm not very good at the show up and throw up kind of, here's all the stuff you guys need to know as fast as I can possibly give it to you and leave. It turns out I did that a lot when I first started with this company and realized that's just a crutch. That's really not what people want. You guys want to have a conversation about the things that matter to you. So, Tim's done a great job of giving us, here's a good agenda to start from, some things we can work on. But like Chuck said, if you guys have specific questions, let's make sure that we address those. I'm gonna pick up with a conversation that kind of started before this, before we jump into SharePoint, which was around Mac. So how many of you guys, show of hands, have a Mac that you use? So a fair number of you. Okay. No, just kidding. So I actually used to manage, I was a K-12 tech director before I came to Microsoft for many years. And the school district that I went to work at, a public school district, was 100% Mac. Now, by the time I left, it was 100% Windows, but whatever. We started with all Mac. I can manage Macs. I'm good with that. But one of the problems that we've seen with Macs has been that there wasn't a lot of parity between the Office products on the Mac side and on the Windows side, and created some problems. Nobody used the word entourage in this meeting, okay? So as we continue, we've changed a lot of things. Again, when Satya came to the helm, you'll notice that Office changed inside of the Mac, right? So now there is substantial parity. The feature set is very similar in all of the Office applications on the Mac as well as in Windows. And we keep driving towards that, making it look more the same, function more the same. And the reason why I mention that is I want you guys to think about these devices. Okay, show of hands, how many people have a smartphone? How many people wish we'd even stop referring to this as a phone at all? Seriously, the thing I use this the least for is to make a phone call. As a matter of fact, it actually is just the gateway. I'm using a headset or the Bluetooth in the car. This is my internet device. My laptop's almost useless without this thing most of the time. Does anybody else feel that way? I love this thing. So it turns out Microsoft said, hey, we do phones too. And at some point we bought Nokia. Do you guys remember that company name? Well, so we now are one of the most prolific developers on the planet for iOS and Android. Now, why did I bring that up when we're talking about the Mac? Because it's the same concept. The idea is that what Microsoft does is we build productivity tools for a world where infinite number of devices and data and apps and networks are competing for your finite time and attention, right? That saying isn't just some random thing. That's how we really feel, and that's what we're doing. So when we look at this, we say, hey, we need to give you the best possible experience and give you the best way to be productive and be efficient in your work life, regardless of your device, whether it's a Mac, an iPhone like I have, or an Android device, a Windows phone, doesn't matter. With that said, the conversation started out around Skype for Business on the Mac. And that was an interesting one because we took the Skype team and the Skype for Business team and we threw those guys together and said, fix it. We didn't say it's broken. We didn't say what's wrong with it. It just was fix it, right? And so they came together, and one of the first things they did is they said, hey, this link client on the Mac needs to be rewritten from the ground up. So they literally just threw it out and started over. That's a big deal. It took a long time to get there to version 1 of it, or what we called wave 1, I think, when that rolled out. Wave 1 was, you can talk, but that's about it. You can hear the other person, but that's the limit of it, right? Wave 2 came out. There were some other things you could do inside of a meeting. Now we've gotten to the point that this client is far more mature and is a really good client. Why that really matters is as we sort of progress forward in this conversation, we have this thing called Teams. So if you use the latest Mac Skype for Business client and use Teams, you'll see something that you'll be surprised by. Turns out that the Skype for Business client for Mac is actually using the latest technology, not the PC version. We built all new video streams, ways that we were doing things, the codecs, it improved dramatically. As a matter of fact, it's a nice full screen video when you're sharing screens or talking to people. And so when Teams came out, amazingly, it looked just like that. The same quality of video, the same display, concepts, all those things were built into Teams. When we take the time to rebuild something from scratch like that, it's because there is some fundamental underlying shift that's occurring, right? That says we need to unify technologies and better utilize the cloud-based assets that we have. So you saw it come to Mac, then you saw it come to Teams that's available on every single device that's out there using all that same technology. I don't have my computer here. What you would see in my computer with Teams is I have a calling feature. I can dial a phone number, make a call directly from Teams. I can answer calls. I can do all kinds of great things from Teams. This is the part where you extrapolate and look forward. How many people read the industry rags, the rumors that are online about things that are coming with Teams and Skype for Business Online and things like that? I have no comment on any of those, but they're good to go and read, right? And next week is Ignite, and that's where we announce lots of things. So good things come to those who wait. Mac users?
We waited a long time.
Good things are coming. They've come. They've come, and it really is. We had, I can't give any details on it. Every month, our CEO has a wonderful Q&A with employees, which is insane when you look at the size of this organization. Every single month, he gets up, does this in front of a fairly small crowd in Redmond, but allows everybody from all over the world to ask any question they want. People select which ones they're going to ask, but then they let live people get up and ask, and nobody's vetting those, I know, because some of them are like, wow, somebody should have made him ask that first. But whatever, he answers any question that comes up. And while I can't give you details of necessarily what comes out of that, I can tell you that he, just this last conversation I saw with him was one of the things that he pointed out again. It is our responsibility to bring the best possible experience and to ensure we're increasing the productivity and effectiveness of every person on every device everywhere. And I'm not talking about just mobile phones, right? That's an overarching view that we have at Microsoft. And so that's something as we talk about roadmap that you need to understand and expect to see from us is more of that focus on being able to work anywhere, anytime, right? So when we bring that into your world, I use a phrase which I stole from Creighton University a few years back, which is the edgeless campus, right? The idea that your campus extends across the entire globe. Do you guys have study abroad programs? I know you do. It's a loaded question, right? Of course you do. Those guys are still on your campus. They're not here. So we have to take all those pieces and parts into account as you roll things out, make services available. You have to make sure you're creating parity across the globe with that. Do you guys have 100% of your students here? I think they're all just speak English, right? You don't have to worry about language barriers, just because Arkansas, right? I mean, no, it doesn't work that way, right? We're in a global society. It doesn't matter where you are. You have to be able to work towards those things and work with those things. So I bring that up because this sort of goes again, and I spent a lot of time at the beginning of the conversation on culture, but goes again to the culture of Microsoft and helping you guys in roadmaps. How many of you guys have ever went and looked at the Microsoft Garage projects? Okay, so everybody wants to talk about roadmaps and where things are going. This is one of the coolest ways. So one of our competitors has always gotten all this crazy press about this concept of moonshots, right? And I sort of chuckle at that, at companies putting massive amounts of funding into these moonshot concepts, and then they just scrap them and move on. We have a different approach. How many of you guys think that some of the greatest innovation that exists on our planet, at least in the last, I don't know, 100 years, have come from startup companies, right? Garage projects, right? So we said, hey, we're a massive global corporation, but there's no reason why we can't be a garage company. We'll just let everybody go and create stuff, throw all the mud on the wall, whatever sticks, and we'll integrate it from there. So Be Epic is not a joke. You'll see that on a regular basis. That's not a touch screen. You can touch it all you want. You guys, this is a public website. Come and look at the garage projects. Really important kind of stuff to think about. I was talking about language, right? So some of the things that come out of here. How many of you guys have ever used Microsoft Translator? I'm about to enlighten your world. Okay, maybe not that extreme, but have you ever tried to communicate with somebody that didn't speak English at all or didn't speak a language you spoke? It's a challenge. I have an app on my phone that allows me to set it up. It splits the screen. I push the microphone and speak. It then speaks it in whatever other language on the other side. The other person can do the same thing, comes back to me, and so in real time we can have that conversation. That was a really neat garage project that came as an addition to what we were doing with this. What did we do? We started taking bits and pieces of all the Microsoft tooling and bringing them together. Cognitive services, cognitive computing services, this idea of intelligence in a machine. When you start to bring cognitive computing and advanced translation capabilities together, now we get a whole new degree of accuracy. As a matter of fact, Microsoft just a few months ago, for the first time ever, beat the top humans at doing closed captioning in real time. Don't worry, this is all coming together in one conversation, I assure you. So you take this little garage project over here, you take cognitive computing services, you take the Microsoft Translator, you bring it all together, and what do you get? You get a magical PowerPoint plugin made by some small little group somewhere inside of Microsoft who said, this is dumb. We have people all over the world using PowerPoint all the time to talk to people who don't have a clue what the heck they're saying because it's the wrong language, or they don't hear well, or they can't see from the back of the room. This is dumb. Let's use our technology wisely. And the PowerPoint team hadn't done it, so somebody else just built a plugin and said, okay, we got this thing. So what did they do? They now have it to where inside of PowerPoint, as soon as I hit the slideshow, it pops up and says, hey, would you like to start a translation? I say, yes. I tell it, what language would I like to have these slides translated? It'll translate all my slides. Or better yet, leave my slides alone and start a conversation. Now, this is where it gets really cool. I say start a conversation. This thing comes up and it inserts a slide with a QR code and a little short URL, if you'd rather, that tells anybody in the room they can go there and join the conversation. When you get into that application, by the way, it's just translate.it, in case you guys all want to go check this out. When you get into the conversation that I've created, all you do is pick your language. Maybe it's Spanish. Maybe it's Chinese or Mandarin, right? Maybe it's, I don't know what it is, what the language is that you speak. But if you choose your language, here's what will happen. On the PowerPoint that I'm showing right here, along the bottom, it'll actually give you real-time closed captioning in English, right? That's what I choose to do. So everybody in the room who's primarily English speakers can see the closed captioning, right? But everybody else on their device, you can have whatever language you want, real-time transcoded and translated text of what the speaker is saying. Do you get how that journey I just took you on, right? The thing of somebody played around in the garage. Somebody took, hey, you know, we can take a piece over here of this advanced cognitive services. We can take this translation stuff. We can start bringing it all together. We can have real-time text-based chats. We can have real-time audio-based chats in any language, have it all come together. This is the Tower of Babel come to roost right here. I'm not a preacher. That was as close as I get. You'll never see me getting closer. But this is cool stuff, right? And this goes to the fact these guys weren't even on the PowerPoint team when they said this has to be done. They just did it. So when you want to know where are we headed, what are we doing as a company, this is what we're doing. Check out Right Ideas, guys. This is an education thing. I'm not going to go through it now. It's a homework assignment for every one of you. Come to this garage tool, scroll down to the bottom, go to Right Ideas. It's an education piece. A lot of this stuff in here is very applicable inside the education realm. But we start taking things like this and turn it into real world projects. How many of you guys use OneNote? Show of hands. Okay, how many people have ever even opened OneNote? Let's go with that. Gosh, the same people. This is almost painful. We're going to use OneNote more today, boys and girls, and I'll teach you about it all the way. No. I am addicted to OneNote. The reason why is because all my stuff follows me everywhere all the time, and it's totally mixed media, edgeless canvas, not the same thing as an edgeless campus, but pretty close, right? And so the idea is I can pull all these pieces and parts together, and we're going to start talking about SharePoint and those types of things. Where do you think my OneNotes live? Where does my OneNote notebook live? It lives in SharePoint, right? It lives in my OneDrive for Business, which is in fact SharePoint if you're not familiar with that, right? It's all one. I think everybody in this room probably gets that. But those things are important. One of the things that came to OneNote was a garage project that was a very special one. This is the last piece I'll kind of go with this is every year we have a big hackathon at Microsoft where anybody can work on any project they want and you just make up the teams. That's the craziest, most insane thing a company does. They say for 1 week, anybody who wants to can form a team to work on anything they want to, and you can just join a team, do whatever, have fun, make some stuff, right? And then we'll just, as a company, vote on what's the coolest thing we saw. And then we might just develop it. As a matter of fact, we probably will if it gets rated that high. So year before last, right? Year before last, a group of people got together and created a thing that we now call learning tools. Basically what they did is they said, you know what, it turns out there is an extremely high percentage of people in the world who have dyslexia. You guys familiar with dyslexia, right? It's not an uncommon thing at all. As a matter of fact, a lot of people make it all the way to adulthood before they even find out they've had dyslexia their whole life. They just thought maybe they struggled a little more than everybody else. It turns out, though, in today's world, we have lots of research on it. We know how to help people through that. So they built a tool in a week designed based on research data to help solve that problem. Then they started to learn about dysgraphia and some other reading disorders that exist out there. They got a chance to meet with Satya, and he said, this is awesome. I want this on the market in 6 months. Problem was they were already 3 months in. They only had 3 more months, and they had to get it on the market. They did it. 6 months from inception to available in schools all across the world. It went so successfully now, we're almost another year later, and that 9 months later is really all. It seems like forever ago, right? But these guys now have not only advanced that capability and the learning tools add-in for OneNote, but we've now automatically included that into Word Online, OneNote Online, right? Your Word application. If you use Office 365 Pro Plus, that version of Office that automatically updates every single month, you'll find out that inside of Word, you now have reading tools or learning tools built right into it, which means it'll read anything to you out loud. Text to speech right away. Better than that, it'll actually do the follow the bouncing ball, actually select the word as it's reading to you. You control the speed, you control the color of the background, the contrast, the size of the letter. You can add syllabification, right? So that it shows you where those syllables are. You can do all those things. Now we've added another piece. How many of you guys know what speed reading is? Right? It's this idea that I want to be able to just focus and quickly step through it. Well, it turns out the research on that says what I need is a reading ruler. This idea of block out the rest of the world, give me nothing else. That was the same technology that was already in this learning tools, because that's what it took to overcome some of these reading disorders. So now we added that reading ruler, and whether you want 1 line, 2 lines, or 4 lines, depending on your skill and capability, you can do that, built right into all these tools, automatically rolled out as soon as we develop it. No more waiting 3 years for a service pack. None of that stuff. This is what's changed, right? I go through a lot of that. I spend a lot of time on that up front because I want you guys to understand the pace of change, the mechanism that is innovation that's bringing these pieces and parts out to you guys. Change is inevitable. You have a choice to make. Are you going to be the person who helps to drive the change at this university and helps to get to control what that change looks like? Or are you the one who's going to be coming along, keeping up, and doing okay? That's your choice. Because companies like Microsoft and Google are going to continue to innovate and move forward at least the pace you've seen so far. We aren't slowing down. With that, I'm going to actually get on topic for a minute, right? I sort of went to the end. That's more of my roadmap and training and how do you keep up on this kind of stuff. So you guys are good with that. Let's talk about SharePoint for a little bit. I came out here about a year ago, got a chance to talk to a number of folks about your guys' project. You're on SharePoint 2010, right? And you doing some conversion into SharePoint. Now, as I find out, you guys have been pretty prolific with that. So that's great. So how many people here currently use SharePoint Online? How many of those same people, keep your hands up, also use SharePoint on-prem, 2010 or some other version? Okay, of those who still have their hands up, any of you huge fans of 2010 over SharePoint Online? Okay, Just curious. The reason why is they're dramatically different. We use the term SharePoint for both of them because we allow you to store files in both of them. We allow you to use metadata on those files you put in there in both of them. Okay, there's still a lot of the underlying things are still there, but we really fundamentally change the way we expect people to interact with SharePoint, right? It's a good thing. This is where change comes along and improves stuff. I was a SharePoint admin 10 years ago. There are certain parts of my career I don't talk about. That's one of them. Yeah, that's exactly the version. You got it. You will not hear me say another word about it. I love SharePoint Online because for my end users, for you guys, it's so much simpler. It just makes sense. It just works, right? So when I come over here and go into SharePoint, whoops, or I'll just click randomly on the button next to it. This is a completely empty test tenant for the most part, but it's so much simpler to work with. When I say create a site, I now get a simple little, what type of site do you want? Have you guys all seen communication sites? Not really. We're gonna do a communication site. Awesome. Is it okay if I call it UR? Because that's not insulting, right? Nobody gets upset. I'm just going to go with topic. There were other, I could do showcase or blank, right? But I'll go with topic, just different designs. This is more than just a template. It changes the layout. Look at this. This looks almost identical to the Microsoft internal intranet site, which I won't bring up here because I like my job and you're recording this. Otherwise, I would show it to you, maybe. We'll see. Cut that part. You guys post edit, right? So what you can see here with this thing and the way that it works is that you have now the ability to create very rich, very impressive tool sets that I just spent, what, 3 mouse clicks and laid this whole thing out. Now I can go in and add my own stuff, right? I've got the automatic learn more capabilities, right? Beautiful blog style posts. By the way, does anybody notice this looks exactly like support.office.com or any of our stuff? That's because this is exactly what we use. We've been using it for a long time. We just decided, hey, this is great. We love it. We should let everybody else use this. We like to share like that. So as we put this together, this is a totally different concept, right? Where I can come in here and say, this is great, but I want to add some additional capabilities to this. So I'll come up here and just say edit, and oops, that's editing the wrong thing. But I can edit this whole thing. And now it's really simple stuff to be able to say, oh, this is great. I want to drag that around though. We'll put that one down here. Maybe I want to add in some new capability. Turn right here, the little plus sign. I'll say, okay, what kind of widget do I want? We've had web parts for a long time, but the simplicity of this, right? The fact that you're not going to get an error when you click on one of them. Not that you guys ever had that happen with your web parts. Right? Things like Stream being built directly into this. Do you guys all use Stream here? Do you guys have Stream enabled? Who in the room has ever recorded a video they wanted to share with at least one other person? Nobody? Come on. You all record meetings or even the stupid little Snapchat. No, don't put Snapchat on there. Bad idea. Stream is like, think of it as like a private YouTube kind of a thing, right? So I get total control over who gets to see what when, and I get the analytics. So now when I put a video into Stream, see, we have that Office 365 video. Remember I talked about evolution of things and how we kind of bring things together and we get smarter and over time we innovate and build. Office 365 video Stream, right? Stream is the big brother. It grew up. That's where we're going. It's where all the development is. So in Office 365 video, it was just SharePoint, right? It was a SharePoint portal, and I could only control permissions based upon that channel, unless I was a super nerd, right? A SharePoint admin and could go in and change permissions on the individual files. We don't want end users having to do that. This is part of the evolution of SharePoint. We went, turns out we don't really need all that to be necessarily a part of SharePoint. It turns out we have better media services over in Azure, the Azure Streaming Media Services, right? That's what we were back-ending it with anyway. So let's do this. Let's just make Stream one of the pieces you put in, a web part, if you will, a piece that we drop in. And now we have all that channel management and individualized control on each video, right, that we put together, those types of things. And I can just drop it in and make it super easy. The idea here and what matters isn't really any of that. It's how simple it is to add all these different pieces and parts and have them look great and reduce the complexity for your end users. Anybody want to give me a hallelujah on that? I mean, man, it's been a long time coming, I think, and a lot of this stuff. But here's what makes it even better. As much as I love this stuff where I would just pick a single video or a channel, whatever I want to drop in there, that's all great. SharePoint team sites, right? How many of you guys use SharePoint team sites or have? You guys do much of that where you have a group of people who are in SharePoint? It starts out as this, we're gonna need a place to put some files. Could you guys create us a SharePoint site? We're gonna put some files up there. That'll be great. There's only 3 of us, don't worry about it. 2 weeks later, I'm gonna need you to add 14 more people to that. That'd be right, and that'd be good. And another week and a half later, excuse me, I'm sorry. Didn't you guys say we could also put some curated content in there? I think we're gonna need to do some just basic, posts, web page thing. And then it's this thing and that thing, right? And I need announcements, and anybody else feel that pain? Right? That's why I don't talk about that point in my life. That was painful because it was never ending. People start out when I'm working with a team of people, I only want to do this thing. I need a distribution list for 10 people. That'd be great. Thanks. And now we added 10 more. And hey, is there anything? How can I get all those old emails over to them? I really have to build a rule. Do I have to do a search? Can't you guys just make that available to them? It'd be great. And there was that SharePoint team we set up with that other group. It's pretty much the same people. Can you just put that together for me? Just do that, okay? Call me when you're done. My blood pressure rises even talking about that stuff. That's right. When I talked about reinventing productivity, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, right? That crap has to go. We have to enable end users to do that themselves, and then we have to educate them on stop freaking asking me for everything, just do it. That's right. And that's the question I wanted. Man, throw the box to it. No. How do we do that? It's the right question, right? And it turns out you guys already have enabled that. And now it comes down to all of you knowing how to do it and then how to educate your end users in a way that you don't sound like a jerk like I just did. Don't do what I did. That's considered disingenuous. So it turns out we said, hey, somebody in the Exchange team came up with a brilliant idea. Over in the Exchange team, they had these things called public folders and all this stuff where you could store files, and you had distribution lists and all this. And actually, some guys who have become good friends of mine have an engineering team that built out what were called Outlook groups, right? And so in an Outlook group, which you guys probably have seen some of, right? We'll come in here, and I like to show stuff as we do it. This is my anti-PowerPoint approach to life. So I come in here and I have these groups that exist, and you know what? We're going to go to a different one that has groups that exist. I have 3 different tenants open because it depends on what I want to show you at that particular moment. And so you can see I have a few groups that I've got set up here, right? I like Project Halo, for instance. So I come over here and I have this group, and so in this group I said, hey, we don't really need a distribution list, right? Because when somebody new comes in, those 10 new people, they can't see all the old conversations. What I really want is a threaded conversation that is persistent, that's available. So when those 10 new people come in, they can see everything that happened before they came. Oh, brilliant. And it turns out some of our people want to go work in that group's mobile app to be able to get to this, but the other 10 people who were here before, they're all email junkies. They want it all coming into their email. They want to be able to respond via email. They don't care about groups. It's all email. Everything's email. Email. Those people can communicate just the same because they can simply subscribe to this. Every message that comes in comes to their email. They can respond to it. Has anybody ever heard of the term listserv? That's not new, right? We didn't make that up. You remember news groups, right? We didn't make all this up. We just made it better. If you look at the history of Microsoft, that's pretty much the story of what we do, right? We're not always the first guy to market, but we tend to bring this stuff sometimes, in this case 20 years later, much better, more integrated, works even better. And then we said there's this other piece where they keep coming back. Now we need a place to store our files, right? That conversation. So we said, hey, forget public folders. We need a better approach. Hey, we have this SharePoint thing over here. It turns out it's really, really good at document storage and metadata and search and response, and it's actually glorious if only it were easier to use, let's just integrate it directly. And so now right here in Outlook or Outlook web app or whatever else, I just go to files. But the best part is, do you see that says this is a SharePoint site? No, because you don't freaking care. Nobody cares. I don't care. I just want to put my files in there. And if I want to go to where I have, as a matter of fact, this thing doesn't even show folders. I don't care how it's stored. I just want to see the most recent documents relevant to this group that we're working on right now. Because I don't need to search, because 99% of the time, I'm looking for a file that somebody worked on just recently, right? All that other stuff is there, and all I have to do is say browse library and look, oh, SharePoint opens up directly into the document library with all of my folders and all the hierarchy, and it's great, right? And I can do the advanced search and all that stuff, but I really just don't care most of the time. Same thing with that shared calendar that's there, right? And so we started adding other things to it, and we said, hey, it turns out Planner is a great idea. We can do basic task management with boards, and we'll put it all together in one little place, and that's awesome. But hey, turns out you gave people this SharePoint document library, and they went, well, I use SharePoint. I like SharePoint. We're going to need that site thing now. Remember that, hey, while you're at it, can you just add a SharePoint site? Sure, we can. As a matter of fact, what we did is we said, these aren't Outlook groups. We're going to call these things Office 365 groups, because they also instantiate a Power BI workspace, right? And a bunch more stuff that exists now and stuff that will exist in the future that we haven't even dreamed up yet. So what we did is, now when you create a group in any of these tools, it creates this thing called an Office 365 group that automatically sets up for your users everything they're going to want in the future. See, when you were doing that in the on-prem world, that was a pain in the butt. First of all, you had all these different systems, and every one of them had a very real cost to you. And so every time that somebody wanted more of this, more of that, if they're really going to use it, fine, but they really didn't use it very often or for very long. They were just playing because they did it in this other group for a minute, and that costs you real money because you've now allocated resources. We said, hey, you know what? This is a commodity internet service. This is the way that we scale. This is the service that we provide. It actually is going to save us money and give you a better experience if we just provision this stuff every time somebody asks for it. So if you want a distribution list, you get a group that comes with all these other things, so you can just grow into it. So when you call the help desk and go, yeah, we're going to need to start doing like regular news updates to our group. Can you guys make that happen? Yeah, you actually already have that. If you'll simply click on the site button, you'll find out right there it says news, and you can click the add news button. Thank you for calling. Have a good day. Right? That's the way we need technology to work. Your guys' job is to be a service provider, to enable the people to do the things that they want to do when they want to do it, friction-free whenever possible. Agreed? Yes. Yeah, there you go. So across multiple platforms, probably one of the most key components to keep in mind as we build stuff and as you guys customize things, even outside of the Microsoft world. Your people don't know what device they were on when they did that thing. They don't know what browser they were in. They have no idea. We were just talking about this earlier. It's absurd what the young kids are coming in today. They don't understand where they put that thing with the stuff in the, you know that folder I showed you before? You know why we took out folders and everything in that one view? Because most people don't use them anymore. As a matter of fact, young people don't even understand the concept of putting folders inside of folders inside of folders, and it's a hierarchical storage, and it makes sense to all the old folks, so do it. They don't. I have 3 daughters. I moved every one of them to something I swore I would never do in my lifetime. I'm a tightwad. I don't spend money unnecessarily. I don't even have an extra monitor that I hook my laptop up to. When I say I don't spend extra money, I'm that guy. Every one of my kids has the most high-end iPhone on the marketplace with unlimited data storage and 256 gigs of memory in it. You want to know why? Because I'm tired of being their freaking tech support all the time. I want friction-free enablement and making it all work, right? You know, because they don't know. They don't know where stuff is. They don't know what happened to it. It's broke, Dad. I'm in Washington. I'll work on it this weekend. But Dad, I have to go to the dance, and I got to call Mom to come get me from the... Figure it out, right? They don't know. They just don't know. This stuff just works for them. That's what they expect of you. When they come to school here, it better just work, because they don't even call the help desk. You know what they do instead? They go find another solution. They just bypass you, cut you out completely. That's bad. That's what we don't want to have happen, right? So that's the kind of stuff that we're after. When we come to building something that is cross-platform, that is available everywhere all the time. The other thing that we need to do, that we're learning, Microsoft for many years has been known as the house of brands. I don't think that's an official term. I think that's probably derogatory, but you'll notice that while we have SharePoint at the top, Outlook at the top, we don't really do that as much anymore. As a matter of fact, we have this whole new thing, and I am going to, please nobody get me, well, we'll do it here. And you guys all have this. Teams. I mentioned it before, right? Has everybody here used Teams? Show of hands. How many people have not used Teams? Seriously, don't call yourself out. Oh, dang, guys. No, you got it. You got to fix this. After today, I expect you all to go at least play with it, for goodness sake. So it turns out all those groups that automatically instantiated and created things were great, right? So now all those old people who knew all the things they wanted to use could just use them all, as long as they already knew what they wanted, right? That was the problem, or is the problem. It's really not a problem, though, for most of us, because we do know what we want to use at the time we want to use it, especially those of us that are power users, like most of you in the room. But it turns out not all of our users are quite as advanced as some of us are with technology. And they don't really know what they need until they need it at that very moment. And sometimes they don't even know what to call it when they need it. Would you guys, is that a fair assessment? I'm not really trying to talk down on anybody. I don't want you to take it that way. I'm not one of these people who thinks, oh, millennials, or oh, yeah. I don't feel that way at all. I think it's the other way around. I think we got to get with it. It's up to us to adapt, because it turns out that stuff just doesn't matter anymore. The world moves too fast. We have to figure out how to provide services in a way that they can consume them, because they have more important things to do with their time. All of you do too. Enter Teams, right? The idea here is, I don't want to go fish for where I need to be. I don't want to know if that was SharePoint or OneDrive, and is OneDrive a part of SharePoint, and did I go here to do this? No! Just put it there, make it work through the web, make it work on my phone, make it work on my phone I'm going to get next week, make it work on the old phone I just pulled out of my bag, because it still kind of works, and sometimes the battery works better on it, and so when I run dead, I just have to have that thing. And also I need it on those two laptops, including the MacBook Air and the Surface device that I have. And I don't remember which one I used last time. I don't know where that document was. So for God's sake, just make it show up in the same place on the other computer. Is anybody okay with that concept? Before we jump to Teams, this is one of the most undervalued components inside of Office 365. Right here where it says Documents. That's the most recent documents I've worked on. Keep wanting to touch that screen. These are the folders they came from. Because sometimes I don't want that document, but I remember the document I wanted. It's right next to the one I worked on earlier. I want to click on that folder and get there. Yeah? Can I show you guys what the new one looks like? Have you guys seen the redesigned one coming out yet? Oh. I don't know if this will roll out to you or when. Not even everybody in Microsoft has this. Mine updated. Did yours update to this? I don't know. I might be on the nerd group. Whatever, I'll take it. This is freaking cool. It turns out I'm kind of dumb. I keep saying that. I'm not kidding. I look at all those icons, they're all the same color. For me, this worked much better. I can read. I did go to school. I know how to use words. So I can find this stuff easier. But check this out. Pictures are better than, right? Icons are one thing, but actual pictures, I go, oh yeah, full speed ahead. I know exactly what that is. I know that picture, I recognize it exactly. And Chuck, does that look like anything we saw when we were out in Washington just last month? I mean, I know exactly where that presentation came from and what it is. And here are all my recent things. Oh, by the way, here are the ones that I've pinned, the ones that I really care about that I'm working on. Here are the ones that were shared with me that I've accessed most recently. And oh, what if I just want to look for other things that are probably relevant to me? Oh, I didn't go anywhere. Stayed on the same page. And I can do that from any device, anywhere, anytime. This is exactly the same for every device. Right? Same thing as I come down here. Here's all my SharePoint sites now, right? All my OneDrive folders. I don't know if that'll roll out in production or not, but I bet it gets really darn close to what you guys are seeing, right? So let's come back here to this concept of Teams, right? Same basic idea. I don't want to go to 100 different places, find 100 different things. Give me my stuff and leave me alone. So here's my stuff, right? Hey, what's up, Chuck? Look at that. So you'll notice I clicked on this because it was bold. I didn't even think about the fact that Chuck was in there jacking with me. But this works out great. The reason why it had turned bold, you guys, we talked about people using OneNote before. You all used Outlook, right? Unread emails are bold. Thank you. Class is paying attention. Same thing in here, so people don't think about it. It's bold. Something came up. I clicked on it. There was also a thing that was an alert that was showing up here at the little red circle. It turns out it went to the same place because Chuck used the @ sign and mentioned me specifically and caused it to come up. As a matter of fact, my phone's on silent, or my phone would have beeped at me too to tell me all those things, right? So Teams brings all that together. This is a persistent chat. So you remember a little bit ago I showed you inside of Outlook how in the Outlook groups we have a persistent conversation via email. Same concept, threaded conversations, but instead of email, this is real-time instant messaging, fully encrypted the whole way through. Now, some of you may be old enough to know better, but email is not encrypted. Email is not real-time. It might feel that way most of the time because the IT folks in the room who run that are, but it's not. It's not. It's not instant messaging. It's not the same thing. This is real-time, secure instant messaging in a threaded conversation that is persistent and follows you from device to device. And better than that, how many of you guys have the Las Vegas effect when alerts occur? I don't have multiple screens. Part of the reason I don't is because the company has provided me with 3 different laptops during my tenure here at this organization. I run all 3 of them. I don't need separate monitors. I have separate computers. They all do different things, more horsepower. Problem is, somebody pings me, my phone, all 3 devices go off. I'm like, whoo, did I pull the lever? Right? I must have won because it sounds like Vegas up in here. I hate that, actually. Believe it or not, for me, it's not a fun thing. It does cause me actual real anxiety. It really does bother me, and I dislike it dramatically. Nobody knows or cares about this feature probably as much as I do, but I love this feature inside of Teams that I show off because this is one of those little nuances that makes it important, which is I can come in here to notifications and make a determination on how it works and sort of who it updates. I think it's in here. I may be in the wrong place. Here we go. Somewhere in here. I can control that, but ultimately what I do, this must be in the wrong place. It's on my phone that I do it. If I have 3 computers open, it knows which one I'm running Teams on, right? And only notifies that one. My phone doesn't go off. If I am not logged in on any of my computers into Teams, then my phone gives me a notification. But my phone is smart enough to just shut the heck up and leave me alone. I got this, right? And if you're a nerd like me who also has the watch that matches the phone, the watch also says, hey, the phone's got it. And the phone says, hey, the computer's got it. So none of this stuff, right? I want to live longer. That little stuff helps me live longer. But all my stuff is together. Not only have these sort of threaded conversations, I have rich, important things like emojis, right? Or jiffies, they're called, right? Not emojis, sorry. I'm not that old. I do know the difference. I just slipped. Why do these jiffies matter? I bring this up in every conversation because those of us that have been in computing for a while or been in IT for a while look at that and go, that's just dumb. I mean, it's fun once or twice, and it's a great way for us to demo stuff, and it can, do you guys remember earlier when that guy wouldn't stop talking? Just kidding. I was talking about kids just going around you. Do you know that every keyboard on this iPhone that I use has this Jiffy thing built into it? Do you think that's a mistake that Microsoft, Google, and Apple have all added that to their keyboards? I think it's probably hard to believe we all got it wrong. It shows up in Facebook Messenger, right? It shows up in everything that you see. Why is that? Because it turns out people communicate like this. I just said something. I said that guy should stop blathering, right? That's a real form of communication now. So emojis came. This is now sort of that next evolution. Kids, they use this. Adults use this. I use this. Once I got over my own issues. These little things like this matter. You do have the controls. You have the ability as IT to control some of that, but here's what's better, and this is what matters about Teams. See, That's great. What matters about teams is that friction-free, get out of the way. Because you know what also happens with those same people? I was talking about people always call up and go, I want more, give me more, I need more. But you also get those phone calls like, I really appreciate you guys setting this up for me. It's been great. But it turns out we just don't want all that stuff. I'm going to need to turn those animated picture video things off. People are abusing it. It's really making it hard for me to bring my screen up in front of my children and not have to explain the dancing lady. You guys had no idea what you're getting into today, did you? So what we do instead of you guys controlling it and saying, okay, I'll take care of that for you, is you can do things like, you know what, maybe you should make that a private group so nobody else comes in and plays around with it that shouldn't be looking at it or whatever the case might be there. But I can come in here and instead of managing just that channel, I can now edit this team. Well, I keep doing edit team. I think it's manage, right? Here it is up here. Where's my brain going today? Let's go to one I own. That might help. So I can add new members here, but what I want to do instead is manage this thing, and I probably should just get some sleep. Where do you edit the, what's that? View team. There, good golly. I need to sleep more. Here's the great thing of this, which is you don't have to in IT hold on to all the controls. Let that person who calls you and says, we don't want to do this in our group, change that stuff. Let them come in and determine what channels are there. But better yet, come into these settings and determine what's the picture going to be like. So you don't have to do it. They can control the membership permissions themselves. And that fun stuff I talked about, you don't want Jiffy, gone, done. Do it yourself. Right? I'll walk you through it because I'm a help desk technician and I want to make sure you get it right and you learn and you're happy, and that is my job and I'm good with that. But what I don't want to do is say, okay, give me just a second, it's done, have a nice day. Right? I want to instead walk you through the process and teach you to fish so that you can control and manage this yourself and so that you're not dependent on IT. So you have that friction-free capability, because sometimes more important than just checking the box is controlling the quality of the content. This is an education tenant. You guys are in an education tenant. I believe strict is the only option. I may have set that as an admin. Actually, I think I set that at the global tenant level to force that to strict. There's also moderate, and there's probably none. I don't know. I don't mess with that because I do demos all day and I don't really want to get run out. Enabling stickers, memes, all that, you guys get it, right? Guest permissions, next part of the conversation. How many of you guys communicate with, at least once a week, somebody who isn't a staff member at the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville? Yeah. We almost all communicate in some way with them. How do you do that? Email? You remember I told you that my kids all have the latest and greatest phone with all the capabilities on the planet? I mean, man, I'm proud of it. Do you know what happened to me literally 2 nights ago? I needed to email something to each of my 2 daughters who still live at home. 2 totally different conversations, different times, same night. Neither one of them has email set up on their freaking phone. That's very frustrating for me. I had to explain to the one who was a junior in high school, it's time, baby. You're going to be applying for schools. You probably need to learn to communicate with people who are older than you. We all use email. You can Snapchat, Dad, because I love you. But everybody else is going to tell you, send me a freaking email. Those cute little videos are not going to get you into the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville. I know, because my niece who goes here had to use her email too. I remember having this conversation a couple years ago. This is why Teams matters. Little things like this. I need to be able to say, I communicate with you via email. I communicate with everybody else in this organization via Teams. You want to work with all of them. You know what? We're going to add you into this. And if you want to subscribe so that it comes to your email, do that. If email is your baby, make it happen. Every time somebody posts this channel, you'll get it via email. I'm going to use Teams. I want less email, because if you see the number of unread emails in my inbox, your whole world might change. This is where I try not to get myself fired, so this will happen very rapidly. 19,714. That doesn't count the thousands I archived that are 6 months old or older. We're not having a competition, but that's crazy. Somebody has to fix that crap, right? I didn't show that to you because I'm proud of that number. I show that to you because it's stupid. That's too much email, old people. There are other ways to communicate. There is a generational shift that has occurred. Social media is an actual form of communication. It's not a fad. It's not going to go away next week. I have a dollar bill signed by one of my old business partners that says social media is not a fad with his name signed to it on a $1 bill, because we used to do this thing when somebody said something and we called BS. Whoever was proved wrong later had to pay $1 and autograph it with what they did, right? I'll forever keep that dollar bill because he swore to me that this MySpace thing wasn't gonna work out. Face space, whatever that is, it is not gonna work. I feel like Mark Zuckerberg would disagree. I could be wrong. I feel like it's worked out for him. We have to be able to communicate with people in multiple generations. And it's really not one or two. There are actually about 4 different generational communication styles that work. And we need to be able to capture all those. That's the reason why you have all these different tools, right? That's what these things are doing for you. And so through working with things like Teams, I can communicate with people inside and now outside my organization, all in the same place. I can do things like still having instant messages and chats that occur inside of here. Right, I can, Chuck and I could literally right here just say, most of the time, that's all I care about. I didn't do any capitalization, no types of periods, anything else, and that's great. It turns out, though, I'm not that guy. I'd like to think that I'm young and hip and all that, but the reality is most of the time, if you go over and look at my real posts, I tend to hit this button, and I come up with, I wish you'd read your email, go away. So I'll come in here and do something like, Dear Chuck. Just kidding. So I'll use sentences in all these different things and put them in there. But you'll notice what we're doing is having a threaded conversation inside of here. This is all actually, believe it or not, getting logged inside of our individual Exchange mailboxes and all that, those other chats that are occurring. Each of those channels have their own mailbox inside of Exchange. Why do you care about that? You really don't, except for the fact that all of this stuff is covered by the governance policies of the organization, right? So you can do e-discovery. Start using Teams and tag me in it then. But the idea is that while we make this all super easy for the end user, it's important to note that this is all being parented or surfaced up through those same tools that you guys have been using for years. So it's really Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, right? Those core components, Skype for Business, things in the background that are bringing all of this stuff together so that you can still perform all the e-discovery searches, set up the data loss prevention policies, do the retention policies, preservation holds. You guys with me? That's all really, really important stuff. It's not as exciting to talk about, but it turns out what makes this work is that you still have the oversight and control as an organization, but you can back off and let the people use it so that they don't just go around you, because that's the danger of shadow IT. Because you actually have a legal responsibility in many cases to retain the communication information due to an Open Records Act that every single public institution such as yours is subject to. So if you're putting so many controls on things that people just go around you, you are forcing them ultimately to violate one of the core principles of a public institution, right? Not to mention any legal ramifications that may come from them doing that they don't know about. So just things to keep in mind. It gets a little bit deep, and so I want to move past that. But I'm actually switch over and go to my real production teams for a minute. I'm gonna look at how we're doing time and agenda here, actually. It is 10:03, good, we're awesome, we're doing great. Perfect, right where I wanna be. Okay, so this is Teams. Now, I normally run this in the desktop app. The one difference today with that is some of the video stuff today. It's a little bit different. Otherwise, everything else literally looks exactly the same. All of my stuff is in the exact same place here that it is anywhere else, right? Now, this is a group that office hours thing I talked about that we do every Thursday. This is our internal group. I have, and I'll flip to this for just a second and flip away from it. Well, I won't even do that here. I have this registration list. I'll just tell you what that is. It is a SharePoint list, right? That everybody who's a member of this, which if I ever have a question, I can go find out who are my members really easily, just coming up here to view team. Remember, I remembered that. So here are my folks who are a part of this. These are a very elite group of folks who are a part of this Microsoft team that helps me with office hours. Chuck's been great, helped me for many years, or for many months. We did this about a year ago. Chuck's actually hosted a couple of different times for me, so you guys are very lucky to have them on the account. One of the things that I needed to do was to be able to allow Chuck to see who are the registrants for that. But I was using Microsoft Forms. Have you guys used Microsoft Forms? That's freaking awesome. Now, it wasn't when it came out, right? It was, so this is the problem that you guys will all run into. Well, I tried that thing when it, about a year ago, and it didn't do the things. So I use this other thing, and it's the stuff, and it doesn't, right? And so then I tried, and then 6 months ago, I was going to do it, but stop it. Just don't do that anymore. That's dumb. Go back, check it out again. Check these things out. Not just ours. You guys have Google Apps too on your campus. Those things change, they move. Stay on top of it. It's your job. It makes your life easier. But it turns out with forms, it's great. It grabs all this stuff. One of the things that didn't exist when I created that form was what's there now. Inside of SharePoint or anywhere else, I can now create an Excel spreadsheet and then just create a form from within there, right? What used to be Excel surveys, and then we did forms. They're all together now. It's just one big happy family. It's great. But it turns out I wanted to do something more than that. I have this nice little form that's really cool. When you go to that website I gave you, msofficehours.com, you go click on that, you fill out the form, it completes in this little database thing. I use a thing called Flow to pick that up, send me an email. And that email says, you've received a new registration from Tim Chadbourne, who works at the University of Arkansas, and here his title is, and here are the things he's interested in. Basically, I've formatted a nice little email to myself that gives me the specific details from the form that they completed that comes directly to me. Then it turns around and automatically writes that into a SharePoint list for me, right? And then that list is just a tab here inside of this. So while I have this form that does this thing and sends this email and writes it over here, and it's all great. Do you know what Chuck cares about? Hey, is Tim Chadbourne signed up for that? So he's just in Teams, clicks registration list, and he can find out instantly, right? Because it'll just load the SharePoint page. Sorry, it's all PII, or I want to show it, but I can't, we're recording. So that's one of the great things, is this ability to add tabs, right? That's really what I'm talking about. But we come in here, and this is the most powerful button in the whole place. Because it turns out SharePoint list isn't there, is it? I missed my mouth. So what you have instead of SharePoint list is website. I can put any URL in there, including a SharePoint list, a communication site, a whatever else. And it doesn't have to be in a Microsoft property. It can be anything I want it to be. So that makes that tab right there. He doesn't have to go anywhere else to find it, and it's in the same place no matter what device he's on, whether he's in a web browser or running Teams. He can find that every time, anytime, when he needs it, at his fingertips. So the idea is, how many of you guys open up your email and keep it open all day long, never close it while you're sitting at your computer? See, I just open my email and I let it be. Teams is that concept. I'm just going to open it up, keep it open all day. I run the application, let it run down in the tray. It pops up notifications, lets me know. It's a lot like Skype in that regard. As a matter of fact, if I don't have Skype for Business running, all those notifications will come directly into Teams, and I can do all the IM and everything directly from here. Under the meeting section, I can join all of my meetings. Just to show you this little trick, here's my calendar, right? I can join any meeting that's here right from here. I probably shouldn't click on all these, but this one I will, right? So you can see, even though that's a Skype meeting, when I click join, it'll let me join that meeting. If it's a Teams meeting, it'll let me join that meeting. It doesn't care, because guess what? Neither do your users. They just don't care. They don't. You created that in Skype? You created in Teams? I'm not joining yours. You created it in Teams. People don't do that. They're just like, join the meeting. I want in. Let me be there. So this is the type of stuff that we're talking about. Bring it all together, make it work. this ability to add in things like a streams channel, like I have there, or Flipgrid. How many of you guys even know what Flipgrid is? I'm not going to tell you. Just kidding. It's not our tool. It's some other thing, right? I created a channel. This is something that education uses like crazy. Turns out it's a massive sort of phenomenon on the web that I didn't know about. There's a lot of those, by the way, that you don't know about either. And every time one of your faculty members comes back from some hullabaloo conference somewhere, they got 4 more of these, and they're awesome, and they're going to use them all today. That's right. You should support it. You're IT. I don't want them to have some other website to go to, some other thing that they're doing. Let's integrate it all in here. So it works out great. It's a place where I can create a channel. It doesn't really matter. I leave a video, then you come in, you leave me back a video. It's persistent video walkie-talkie. That's really what it is, right? This is Snapchat for the real world, I think, except it doesn't go away. I don't know. It's super popular. Works out great in education. It's a great way to leave feedback, comments on things, doing stuff. But frankly, what a faculty member needs to be able to do is establish something like this and not have to try to remind kids where to go and how to get there and how to set that all up and do this other stuff, right? It just needs to be there. This is the kind of stuff that's just there. Now I have this other little thing that pops up here. And you guys are in education. You might even also see assignments over here on the left. I have files, right? So I talked about being able to get to my files anywhere, anytime, that type of stuff. Here's all my recent files. Again, we're in my production tenant, but these are all the recent files I've worked on. Here's all the files I've worked on recently inside of Teams. It's about to come up for me. It's going to. Live demos. I love them. I also have my OneDrive there. Right? So I don't need to go back to that web's the thing with the stuff and the where. Stupid. It just needs to be there when I want it. Here's all the most recent stuff. There it is. Good to go. Right? That's the kind of stuff that I want. So I don't have to think about it as a user. But what about this other stuff that's here, right? What about Planner? I love Planner. Planner's had a bit of a problem for me. I don't use the Planner in each of the teams. I go use the Planner site and use it. Well, look, now all of a sudden I can get the Planner from inside of Teams. This is another one of those, really? How long did it take us to figure that out? But I can see all of my actual stuff that I probably need to get done. What is this Poly? Does anybody know what Poly is? Poly's a bot. How many of you guys use bots? Okay. This is the fun part of the conversation. This is where I get a bottle of water. I talked to you guys at the very beginning about culture shifts, about how to extrapolate what you see from companies like Microsoft. You should apply that same thing to Facebook, even though you may not use it in your organization. That's what you all use in a personal life. It has tremendous influence on all of your end users, right? Google, Apple, all of those guys. It's important for you to have sort of that thought process of where are we going, what's happening. One of the things that you might start to notice just showing up places is this concept of bots. Bots are artificial intelligence. More accurately, it's the application of machine learning and cognitive computing coming together in a way that we can respond to people using natural language queries in a way that they can interact with a machine without realizing that that's a machine. It's a freaking bot, right? It's the same thing we saw in chat rooms 20 years ago that people were writing. They just weren't very good at it, right? We see bots coming everywhere. You know, today we're in what I would refer to as, so we talk about like the mobile first world. We're really kind of in this app world, aren't we? So if you think about it from a computing standpoint, we did the whole mainframe thing, everything was there. Then we went to we got it all on our desktop. I've got this software that does everything, right? I look at like, let's take Word. Microsoft Word is like the Arnold Schwarzenegger of bodybuilding. I mean, it is the best of the best. This thing can do anything, lift anything, man. I don't care what you dream of, and we keep innovating it. We were just talking about learning tools just the other day. Now there's Researcher, if you haven't done that, and Click and all these, there's so much stuff that's come to Word in the last year. It'll blow your mind if you haven't looked at it. I mean, this is one super powerful, cool thing. And then somebody goes, I just need a place to type some stuff. Let me just I'm going to download this app real quick and I'll just do this thing and it's type it up, send it out. It's good, right? It's good. That's the kind of stuff that I see a lot of. That's the app world. You guys can't see this. There's a group with 4 different screens. There's a group. But even if we don't count the groups, the number of screens that I have, the number of apps I have on my phone is absurd. You know why I have all those apps? Because I needed to do that thing, that time, that once, and then I just kept it because I might need that again. And I have like 4 different parking meter things because I had to put in $20 for that one. And if I ever go back to Austin again, I can use some of that money I had to give them. Yay! That's the app world. It's becoming overwhelming. Does anybody else feel that way? Like there's just so much, it's too much. How do I do it? When do I use it? Where do I find it? Where did it go? Which one was it? What was it called? Was that? This was a great concept. The idea was simplify the things that could do everything, but we got to evolve as people. We got to move on. How do we do that? You know what it really is? When I'm sitting in this thing right here and I'm having a conversation with somebody, I really just want to say, hey, Chuck, we should go get a pizza. And this thing ought to come up and go, oh, Mazio's is right down the street from you. Would you like me to place an order? Yeah, that'd be great. What kind of pizza would you like? Pops up a poll. I vote on it. Chuck votes on it. The other 3 people vote on it. Says, okay, I'll place the order. Would you like me to charge your credit card? No, but do it anyway. And it orders the pizza. We just go and show up and eat it. We didn't say, hey, does anybody have the number? We should call them, right? The computer should anticipate your needs and respond to them as they become obvious in a way that is fluid and friction-free, regardless of the device, location, or app that you're in. That's what a bot begins to bring about. We're in early stages now, but make no mistake about it. This is where we're headed. This is what's coming. Remember when I said you have to make a choice? Are you going to be part of what leads your institution for change and help direct that? Or are you going to simply be somebody who keeps up and does okay? Your choice. I suggest you at least go learn about this. You can build your own for free. How many of you guys are coders? How many people love to write software? Yeah! Woo! You guys are awesome. Love you too. We'll hang out later afterwards, grab some beers. Everybody else, we're going to learn. No, it's good. You can go. It turns out Microsoft and other companies, but we're probably the primary leader in the bot framework, honestly, in the world. You can go and build your own bots today. I built one while on a conference call I should have been paying attention to. Let's not tell my manager. But I built a Q&A bot. You guys have FAQs? Anybody have an FAQ that you use? Like you just give to people like, hey, go to this website. Probably already answered that 6 times. Just go, seriously. Click there. What if next time you just did something like this? Said, hey, okay, something went wrong with my bot here. We'll see. It's not supposed to be called that. So the name didn't load quite right. But you notice how I can just ask this thing, like, what do you do? I don't need to come up with what's the right way to phrase the question, or hey, I'm going to search for this word in that FAQ and it found it 6 times and I'm going to read 3 of those and decide I'm done, moving on, next, call the help desk, right? Instead, what I do is I built a bot by just telling it, here's a question, here's an answer, here's a question, here's an answer. And then I sort of trained it a little bit. I'd go ask a question and say, that was the right answer. Nope, that was the wrong answer, that type of stuff. And so it would come up. You can tell I clearly haven't used it in about a week and need to go back in and probably do something. It looks like I've got something that's expired on me, given the name over here has changed, and it's not responding. But the idea is I can actually tell it to just look at your existing FAQ. You don't even have to do anything with it. If you already have the FAQ, you can put in the URL of the FAQ. It'll go pull that into the bot, make it available. You can then publish your bot into Teams or into, it might be because of the in-private session, actually. But you can pull all that in and have it come in, and so you can start to see, I can ask it all these different questions. It just responds. What can you do? Where do I find the demo on Fish Hunter, right? All these different things that are up here. I can then go back in as the owner of that bot and see what questions did people ask that it didn't answer, or that it answered incorrectly. And I can say, no, this would be the right answer. Or wait, let me enter that. Or hey, that's actually a great way to ask that question. Make that an alternative question for the same answer. And I'm just training it over time. So I just monitor it every couple of days, say, oh, let's retrain it, let's publish it and go forward. It turns out building a bot is not rocket science, and you don't need one of these 2 coders to do it for you, right? You can do it yourself. Now, if you are a coder, you can do some really cool stuff and make it even better as you go forward, but there's no reason to wait to start playing with this. It turns out bots are built directly into Teams already, and I can actually add some of those myself including there's a forms bot where I can start creating polls with one-on-one. I have a who bot, which can tell me, you know, kind of who's where and why. This one, T-bot, is built into Teams. You all find it. It is a basic, how do I use Teams? So when people start calling you up asking questions about Teams, what you should do is open Teams, type in their question, see if it has the answer, and go, you know what I just did? I'll tell you what, why don't you click on chat inside of Teams, go to the T-bot, type that question in, watch what happens. Look, there's your answer, right? Those types of things are available. Oh, here's the FAQ that it works from, by the way. Here are some videos on it. Oh, look at this, built-in help, tech support right here without the human capabilities, right, or needs. I love that kind of stuff. The other thing that I do with this that fits right into this is I don't want to go out and fetch information all the time. Do you guys feel like it's hard to keep up with Office 365 and all the changes that are coming and that it constantly moves and changes? A little bit. It's an effort. Could you imagine what it's like for me to try to be the quote expert constantly in this, because something comes out and people are like, that day, well, what about this? Where's it at? And every Thursday I get 75 to 100 people on a phone call all going, where are all the details? And guess what? I find out about it the same day you do. How do I stay on top of it all? I actually use Teams and a concept called connectors. Have anybody in here used connectors in either Office groups or in Teams? This is super powerful. I found a few places where I get core information that I give a care about, and then I have it automatically feed into here for me. So for instance, we're in MS Office hours. So the first thing that I have coming into here is a set of blog posts. So when I go to Office or blogs.office.com, I filter it by education, and then I grab the RSS feed URL. I just simply come into here to my connectors. Which, by the way, I'm using RSS feeds for the things I'm doing. Does anybody here use Twitter? Okay. Bitbucket, I mean, holy cow, guys, look at this list. Just about anything that you use that stores data or creates data, publishes data, or has data in some fashion, you can just automatically ingest the information into Teams. So I do this with RSS feeds so that I can just put in that URL, give it a name, tell it how frequently I want it to check for updates, and it automatically publishes it for me. So I have a few of them that are already set up for me, right, that bring in from certain places. My number one favorite one is a thing called skywriter.net, by the way. If you all want to go there, that's a really good one, skywriter.net. It's actually one of my colleagues in Microsoft who writes this blog every week. He manually curates content from all across Microsoft properties for all the blogs and things that matter. And since when he first started, I kind of reached out to him, told him what I was doing with office hours, and all of you folks, you'll find out a lot of the content in there is has a little bent towards education. That's because Thomas and I stay in touch on a regular basis. I make sure he knows our education folks care. So you'll find out things that matter. He'll go through the Windows blogs, the Office blogs, the Active Directory blogs, and bring only the ones that matter, only the ones that are really important today into this weekly digest that he does. Plus here are the online webinars that matter to you coming up. Here are the important announcements about things that are changing in Office 365 that you need to know about, all right here. Oh, and by the way, here are all the things that were added to the roadmap just in the last week, all right there. He curates all that. You don't have to do it. So all the stuff you would go look for, it's there. But then you got to remember skywriter.net, right? No, use connectors. Who cares? Why do you want to go look for us? I go find the stuff that matters to me, put it in these RSS feeds. I take the MS Office Hours tweet. So now anytime somebody tweets hashtag MS Office Hours, which you're all welcome to do, it will actually, within just a couple of minutes, show up right here in this feed for me, so I don't forget to go look and see if anybody's mentioning this group or community, right? So it all shows up here for me. It turns bold when a new thing comes in. And so every week I can come in and see what's the new things that have happened, right? Here's that weekly digest, the most recent one from Tuesday. I just click on it to give you an idea. It takes me directly to that site. I didn't have to remember where to go or when to go. It reminds me, it pops into my Teams inbox. Guess what that's not? It's not another freaking piece of email setting in the 19,486 others that I'm not gonna ever read, right? This is reinventing productivity, right? Changing the way that we ingest and digest information. Okay, I'm gonna try to get back on script here. Where are we at? Hopefully I haven't done it too bad. We kind of talked a little bit about guests. I'm gonna jump to that one. Okay, that's where I want to be. We're good. So we talked a little bit about guests inside of teams. Guests work across pretty much all of Office 365 now. That's like a ooh. If we'd had this conversation last month, we'd have been going except Teams, right? So that's a new thing, just popped up. How many people have used Yammer? Anybody in Yammer? Oh, wow. So you do need to join the Office Hours team. How many of you guys have some technical responsibility inside of Office 365? You guys should all be a part of this Office Hours thing, right? You don't have to come every week. It's not you're required to come to this thing. I send out emails on Thursdays, maybe not today because we're gonna be busy doing other stuff, to say, here's what we're gonna talk about in just a few minutes. It usually comes right at the beginning of the call in case you forgot. So you go, oh crap, I wanted to be on that. I know what the topic is, or you know what? I kind of got other stuff to do. Maybe next week. That's okay, that's the idea of it. It's a community call, it's open Q&A. Any question you wanna ask, and it's not always me and Chuck answering the questions. Most of the time it's your peers who are actually doing this crap in the real world, who are over in the IM window correcting all the dumb stuff I say. It's great, I love them. It's literally my favorite time of every single week, so I talk about it a lot. One of the things that we do is we have a Yammer community where you can go and at any time, it's like Facebook and Twitter put together, except that it's all in a nice private place and not everybody in the world's jacking around with this. And so it's just you and your peers where you can ask questions, get answers on 100 level things like, what's your guys' policy on X? Does anybody have any policies I can borrow or template from? Or does anybody know the 400 level PowerShell script that would get me this thing that would do the blob with the X, and then somebody goes, oh, I published that on GitHub, come over here and grab it, right? That's the kind of stuff that's really cool because with Yammer, I can work with people from every different area. We've been doing that for a long time. The best way to do that is through having multiple networks. So I have my internal only network, and then I have my external, like in this one, it's called Microsoft Education Network, right? You get the idea of this, I have separate networks, right, and how they work. That's kind of what Teams does when I start bringing in groups. So for instance, if I come back to, let's go to a different one we haven't used yet. Trying to remember what I'm logged in as here. This one is, yeah, that's right. Hey, awesome. This is one of the problems with not using an in-private browser session when you got multiple people using the same browser. Here we go. So the idea is when I'm working inside of Teams, I want to see, again, this is that sort of pristine one, right, that has nothing in it. I'm going to see only the things that are relevant in my team. But I want to be able to come over here and switch to other tenants, right? So there's a team in the Microsoft production tenant. I haven't accepted my invitation yet, right? So I got an invitation, but it turns out Microsoft says, okay, we'll allow a guest, but a guest has to do something special at the Microsoft tenant. Somehow they have to tell me, who are they, what do they do? So we'll do phone authentication. I'll tell it I'm in the United States. I'll give it my cell phone. Turn the ringer on. And I'm gonna tell it to call me so I can put it on speakerphone. What's that? 78, oh yeah, shoot, I'll just make some stuff up and thank you, Chuck. Apparently Chuck can count to 10 and I can't. Thanks for showing everybody that trick.
Thank you for using the Microsoft Sign-In Verification System. Please press the pound key to finish your verification. Your sign-in was successfully verified. Goodbye.
Just proving I am who I say I am. I set that all up. And the reason why is because we require MFA. You guys have some MFA here, but turns out multi-factor authentication is kind of a big deal, kind of important. If you want to secure things, we at Microsoft say, okay, we'll allow guests, but guests still have to use multi-factor authentication too. So that's what I did. I just enrolled in that saying, this is my phone. Thanks for letting me play. I can go through all this. It's good. We're good. So I'm still in Teams. Everything looks the same, but you can see I can switch between the various ones. And I can see here was a conversation I have going. Right? I can participate in the conversations, or I thought I could. I don't know what just happened there. Yeah, maybe not. That's interesting. Apparently there's a bug every once in a while when you do live demos. But you can see I get notifications. How many unread messages are over in that other tenant? So now I'll switch to a third tenant, right? This is the one I was in a little bit ago, my Preston's lab. So now I come over here and it says, that's great, but we haven't actually enabled that over here. So I have to do this whole try again. So the reason why is because in my other tenant, I've turned off the guest access, right? It gives you the ability to control all these pieces and parts, makes it easy for the end user to switch between them. But we've really tried to set up this idea that you don't have to come create a University of Arkansas ID in order to communicate and work with the folks at the University of Arkansas. We want to make sure that we're allowing you to collaborate and communicate with folks outside your organization as well. How many of you guys, just real quick, I'm going to go back to one that was up above. I mentioned before Flow that I use to automatically pick up form entries. How many of you guys have ever used Flow? Okay, a few of you. I want to just show that real quick because you guys have quite a bit of SharePoint knowledge and utilization here. Flow does a ton of things. When it first came out, I usually compared it to people. I would explain it to people like, oh, you know, if you've ever used IFTTT, it's very similar to that in nature and what you can do. It has gone way freaking beyond that in what it can do here. It's great when you're using SharePoint to be able to do things like I said, automatically create a list or automatically take every attachment to any email that comes to this box and store it over here in this SharePoint area, right? I can do approval workflows very easily for it. Flow's integrated directly into a SharePoint site. So while I'm sitting there in a list or in a document library, I can say new Flow and just create it right from there. I don't have to come over here to do it all. But I do have some really unique things that I can work with, different tools. If you start looking through, there are 169 different services today that you can use. That number is growing rapidly, that you can tie together in any way you can dream up. This is the ultimate cook's kitchen right here, right? Whatever you want. So let's look at some examples. I called up this Flow team, I don't know, a month ago and said, hey guys, we've got some needs in education. Can you help us create some templates to do some specific things? They said, boy, I'm glad you called. We got this intern. This is exactly his job. Meet, I won't mention his name. And so he helped me and built this whole thing. Awesome work. Yeah, I say help me. He talked to all of my peers, figured out how to do it in spite of me and did it anyway. It's awesome. So some just simple little things you can grab templates and start from, right? So here's the notify me in Outlook when a student completes a quiz. That's kind of cool. Look at this one. Notify me and store the response when a student completes a quiz. Puts it in a list. Does that sound familiar? Right? Basically the same thing I did. This is a very similar template. The cool thing is when I click this, it will automatically build that flow for me. All I have to do is attach my credentials and then maybe put in a few customizations, things I want to do. This is, note there's this little arrow over here. There's some other things. Just in case you happen to use services that aren't provided by Microsoft. Whatever. You can do the same thing and publish that data elsewhere, like into Slack, right? I heard this weird rumor you all use Box. You can do some stuff with Box too, right? So look at this. Here's a great example of that. What if I just wanted to keep my portfolio in sync? I'm sure you guys don't have students who keep portfolios with digital files, right? Of course you do. You have OneDrive for Business. They put all their stuff in there, have unlimited storage with OneDrive for Business. Except that portfolio, they need to keep a copy of that in their personal OneDrive or somewhere too, right? So that they ever leave or whatever, get asked to leave. Not that that happens, but sometimes those kids that keep portfolios are those kids. here's a way for them to do it. They just come say add, it'll automatically keep it in sync for them. What if they say, hey, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm gone. I'm out of here. I'm graduating. Woo! Next phase in life. But I need to take my stuff. I can come here and create a button that'll one time copy everything from this OneDrive for Business over to this OneDrive or OneDrive for Business. I push the button and it copies everything for me. It's pretty awesome. Now it gets interesting. My understanding is you guys have students on Google, on Gmail. You guys are on. Let's fix that. Let's work together on that. Unite. But for now, here's an interesting thing. You know, this can be reversed just as easily. And I go, hey, students, we're going to be moving over, giving you guys all this thing. You may still have that account, but here's the one we're going to support over on the Microsoft side. And oh, by the way, if you'll just add this little button right here, we could just have this flipped and you can have a template you've published that simply takes everything that was in your Google Drive and copies it over to OneDrive. In this case, it actually syncs it. It keeps it synchronized between the two drives. Do you have a question?
No.
Oh. So lots of things. These are just the things that we dreamt up and said, hey, these are possible. You can build your own. Go here, look at this, figure it all out, right? Keeping calendars in sync between Google and Microsoft. Ooh, brilliant plan. Who would have ever thought, right? Forms. Anyway, lots of stuff there. Flow is one of those game changers, right? When I take Flow and SharePoint and Power BI and put those together, it's phenomenal. If I put Power Apps in front of that, I've just changed people's world, right? So we talked about all these apps that do all this stuff. But 2 people in here raise their hand to say they're coders, that they really know how to code. Would anybody else like to be able to build a mobile app? Right? I mean, like we all at some point went, man, it'd be great if I just had a mobile app that did this thing and the stuff with the touch, right? So anyway, I'm not going to demo this because it takes too long. We use it a lot. We have simple little mobile apps. Turns out with Power Apps, you can build a mobile app and not write any code. If you can write Excel spreadsheets, if you can build spreadsheets and you understand how to do those formulas, that's the kind of coding, even if you have to, inside of Power Apps to do the advanced stuff. It's actually literally built with that in mind, right? So now I can build this front end that's beautiful and publish it out to every device. One of the problems with building a mobile app is I have to get it published in the store for iOS, and I got to build an Android version. Do I need it in the Windows store? Do I need it in the Mac store? Holy, seriously? I don't have time for that. I don't know how to do it. I didn't write all. It costs $100 just to get the even thing to be able to publish to it for each one. Hate that. Power Apps don't have to do that. Turns out Power Apps is already published in all those stores and available for all of them. They install Power Apps, and now I can get to all the apps that you build and publish out. You can control to whom you publish them based upon, guess what? Office 365 groups. Remember that whole conversation about get out of the way, become friction-free, let the people control it. Holy cow, right? Let's use the same things over and over. Let's create constructs that can make sense, that can be common sense. That Office 365 group is a security context too. Oh, somebody was brilliant. It wasn't me. But somebody was. Makes it super simple. So now I can take that app and publish it out. I can store my data directly into SharePoint for me, right? In a SharePoint list. That's the apps that can read from that, sort of multiple lists if I want to. It functions like a relational database if I choose to, or I can use no database at all and use the common data model that's built right into Power Apps. And then I could copy some of that data into SharePoint, whatever I want. But then I can use Power Apps to be, Power BI to be able to visualize that data, to bring it up in a way that makes perfect sense. And guess what? I never have to leave where I'm at. I can take that Power BI visualization and publish it right into that SharePoint team site. How hard do you think that is? Edit plus Power BI, that report, boom. Oh, I'm a genius. Not really, right? It's super simple. It sounds hard. Let me tell you guys why this matters, why it's important to you. I keep talking about generational shifts and generational changes. I have, I call him my nephew, I have a family friend, young man, he based my nephew. I love him to death. We see him all the time. They live in Wichita, Kansas, which I live in Houston. It's a long ways from Houston to Wichita, but my parents live just not too far past that. It turns out on a 10-hour drive, sometimes 8 is about it. So we just stop in Wichita and hang out. for the night. Get up and do the next 2 in the morning, which is great. Get to see my little buddy. Last time I was going through Wichita, we called him up and said, hey, it's storming like crazy. I'm tired. We want to come stay the night. I said, great, come on over. My friend Leslie tells her son we're on our way. So you know what he does for the 2 hours it takes for us to get there? He goes onto YouTube and starts to research. He loves Minecraft, and he knows I work for Microsoft, right? And we bought Minecraft, and he knows I love to tell stories about him anyway, because he's cute as a Dickens. So he spends the next 2 hours on YouTube studying to show me how to build something he'd never built before. So I show up, he's super excited, we sit down, he gets out his computer, and he fails the first 3 times to build this catapult that throws dynamite and blows up a target. Did I mention he was 7? Okay. Do you think he got upset when it failed? It never occurred to him that not working the first time was bad. No one's ever told that young man in his lifetime that you didn't get it right the first time, you suck. They don't. That's not the way he's being taught. That's not the way he's expected to do it. He believes in failing fast, right? It wasn't even a setback for him. He learned from it the moment it failed, because you know what he did in that 2 hours? He went out and he learned about material design. He figured out that it turns out I'm not a Minecraft junkie, but he teaches me, I know that TNT in the game, dynamite, will blow up stone, but it can't explode obsidian. And water will absorb it, right? But there's a problem with water. It only sets sort of flat, and that becomes an issue, right? And if you put everything with obsidian, then you don't get the propulsion action that you need. You actually need things to kind of blow out a little bit. Have you guys ever seen how jet engines work, right? It's not just let it all go. You got to control the explosion and where it goes. And then you got to have some kind of an action that actually propels it. And there really isn't that in the game. And then you got to be able to turn it on. You got to flip the switch. So this kid, I kid you not, in just a few minutes, put together for me on his 4th try, it worked flawlessly. What it was after, it worked every time, but it didn't work in his mind because he needed to build it so it was reusable. It couldn't blow apart. It had to be reusable. No one told him that. That's just what he thought, right? And so he built a cannon and blew up a target. And here's what it does. It takes 2 TNTs, drops them into the water, and 1 second later drops another one that gets shot off. And he did that by taking this redstone stuff that he mined from deep in the false earth, brought it up, and built a circuit with switches and a delay. Flips the switch, shoots 2 in, drops the other one on it. The first 2 explode. The obsidian acts as a block behind it. It causes the next one, when that blows up, it causes it to throw that one forward at just the right angle and blows up at the precise time to blow up his target on the other side. 7 years old. Nobody told him to do this. They didn't set, what are the requirements? Nobody said, this is the thing that has to be reusable. Nobody said, here's how. He went out and did all the research himself. He knows how to learn. He doesn't need somebody standing in the front of the room explaining it all to him. He needs somebody to teach him where to get the information and get the hell out of the way. He's also going to come to school at a place just like this very soon. And then he's going to take a job at a place just like this very soon. Do you want to compete against him? Because I'll tell you what, he's not a lone gun. He's not even unusual. How many of you have kids under the age of 20? I will bet you that many of them today already exhibit those types of capabilities. If you have kids under the age of 10, this concept of self-learning, self-motivation is becoming a norm. And if it's not, you might want to go talk to the teachers in the school district where you go. These kids are going to change your workplace. They're going to change what's expected of you. But before that happens, they're going to change what you have to do to provide them services. It's already happening at this university. I guarantee it, whether you know it or not. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. You need to be able to take data, create a simple application without waiting for somebody to get an approval somewhere, to hire a team who's going to develop it all for you, and 6 months to a year later give you what you asked for. Because guess what? 6 months to a year later, we've moved on, people. You missed it. The window's over. Next. And nobody had that money to start with. You've got to be able to go in and create the app that you're going to need to collect the data that you want. You've got to be able to build the forms. You've got to write the flows, to set up the approvals. So when somebody puts data in, the right people get to say, yes, I approve of that data, so we don't have garbage in, garbage out problems, right? It turns out you can do all that today because you can learn, right? You go to powerbi.com, go to the learn section, videos, watch them, pages, read them, whichever you want. Same thing with Flow. It's all right there on flow.microsoft.com. You've got to learn. You've got to take that on.
Yes, 15 minutes left.
Good, perfect.
We have a hard stop at 11, so I know we've got another meeting. Thanks, Tim, to set that up. But I just want to make sure, because he can go all day, right? And obviously a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate that energy and passion for sure. But I just want to make sure that we have, if you have questions, you know, what are they? Is there something that we can show you that we haven't, that Preston hasn't shown right now? Or are there specific things that you're excited about or that you're intrigued about? Or is there anything else that you want to go a little deeper in? I just want to make sure that we have that time because we're going to be out. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Marie Riley, and my team is the one of many responsibilities, but the Office 365 support team. And first of all, you know, we go back to SharePoint 3. So we've cut our teeth, and what we've seen is a real shift through our migration process. We did a lengthy evaluation to go on-prem, hybrid, where are we going? And like you've shown, Microsoft is changing fast. And so we realized to keep up with that, we need to go online because that's where everything's rocking, we think.
Yeah.
So we hope we've made the right decision on that. But as part of that, because it's such a rich environment, we've expanded our employee program to include students. So I really want to hire some students to really delve into this environment that you've been talking about. Power Apps, all things new coming out of Microsoft.
Sure.
So from a directional standpoint, you know, what is there certifications? Are there areas that I should be looking at to prepare the students to work in this environment?
So that's it's a yes and a no question, right? So we actually have some great curriculum around that's available to you through Imagine Academy. I don't know if you guys currently purchased it. They have it now? Okay.
I never heard of it.
We'd have to look. Imagine Academy is a ton of curriculum, everything from game development to becoming MCSE certified, right? So there's all the different certifications, everything that's included inside that. The only thing, you have to buy the exam from Certiport, but you can buy those vouchers in chunks along with it. But it's actually ridiculously cheap compared to anything else you would buy from Microsoft. Just that's not a term I use very often with the stuff that we work with. But it's just something super easy to get. For less than the price of sending one person to a 2-day training camp, you can buy this so everybody on the entire campus can use it. Okay.
That's perfect.
Another piece online free is MVA, Microsoft Virtual Academy, mva.microsoft.com. So a ton of stuff that's there, and it continues to be developed. And it's similar, the coursework that's in Imagine Academy, but it's the free stuff that's there. So, and same kind of concept to where you can do Microsoft Certified Professionals down into, you know, innovative educating, that kind of stuff. And also education.microsoft.com, right? So, and that's really probably more from a classroom perspective, but still it's got a lot of this content that's there. So as we, you know, announced Teams, and or actually we had Classroom, and Classroom has been rolled into Teams. And so a lot of that content is on education.microsoft.com, and you can have, you know, faculty, staff, whoever go through kind of those pieces that are more maybe from an education slant. So just another option.
There is also a channel on YouTube called Microsoft Mechanics.
Yes.
It gets really nerdy. It covers everything Microsoft when it comes out and is new, from Azure to Office 365. It's great.
Yep.
I have a lot of nerds on my team.
If you have Windows 10, I have an app that I wrote that will bring all this together for you in one place. Not MVA and the Imagine Academy, but all the different YouTube and blog posts and everything. It's called O365 News. So O365 space news in the Windows 10 store. It's just a simple aggregator that brings all this together for you. Only on Windows 10 though.
You wrote that app with a stylus?
Yeah, so he's right. I did it to prove a point, that anybody can write a custom app without writing a single line of code. So I did it on a Surface 3 with no keyboard. I did it all with my finger and a stylus. So it's just one of those things I did to prove out, right?
So in that same vein, what we're doing with our student hire program, for example, I have a WordPress team, and so we're bringing students along with some PHP development, for example. We have a team that we're growing in the Unity environment because, you know, everybody wants to do everything as a game. So is ASP.NET still a valid tool that we should be teaching some of these students, or do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
And
It's certainly outside my realm of expertise.
Right.
But I don't see that changing.
No, not at all. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
If you want to do game-based development too, I really encourage you guys to check out Microsoft Education or Minecraft Education Edition.
Yep.
The Minecraft Education Edition now has a code builder built directly into it. Well, I went to Kansas State University, and I'd been programming before I went, but they made me take that beginner level course, which actually turned out to be a lot of fun. And at the time, it was Turtle Graphics inside of Pascal. Turtle Graphics was the idea that you had essentially a pen that went around the screen, and you programmed it, and you had to make it build things, and you know, which was literally line art, right? This is a 3D rich environment that is about the same level of complexity as what Turtle Graphics was in Pascal, but it's all inside of Minecraft. Talk about meeting kids where they are. The average age of a Minecraft user is actually college age. So I think it's worth checking out and taking a look at it.
Mm-hmm. And more development will come there, right? I mean, we acquired Minecraft, and you know, kind of putting that piece into that. So, yep.
Did you know they required?
Yeah, that's new. We just announced that in May or something.
Right.
So
yeah.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah. Good.
Other questions? Chat.
Shoot your box.
First off, thank y'all for coming. This was very informative. I'm Director of Support Services, so I'm curious how other colleges are getting this type of information out to their faculty, staff, users of Office 365. We've deployed it, but we really need more information like this out. Also, how do we train our help desk to support these features? What's our best method to do those kind of things from your point of view?
Well,
Didn't mean to make that a hard question, but
No, it's good. It's a great question.
This is the open wound for me personally, right? Because I love doing this. This is my passion, and I used to do a lot of it. Pretty much cut this out of my diet, but you know, Tim asked specifically, would I come here and do this for you guys? So Chuck helped me get it organized and make it happen. But even if this is what I did full time, I couldn't get to everybody to do something like this, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we originally started this office hours call, was to be able to get this information out to the IT pros so that they have it to determine how to get it out to others. So you at least know when things are changing, because you have this weird day job you have to do. So it takes an hour out of your week to stay on top of a lot of this stuff. And we're pretty thorough, I think, on covering what's important to your industry right now. It's education, because it's just education. And then I would say sort of beyond that, there's some things like fasttrack.microsoft.com where you can get materials. So like posters or, you know, one-pagers, things that you can use to help evangelize and get this out. I don't know as you should just grab those and use them as they are, or grab them and make them your own. I like that better, putting it on your poster with your logo, because your people are proud of the Razorbacks. They don't really care about the Azures, right? Right? Or the 365s, or the what? Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's so I guess it's not an easy answer, because it is changing so fast and shifting so fast. I think what's really important is that you do a couple of things that I suggest over and over. I wrote that app specifically for more of the quick little keeping things up. If you have Windows 10, I would use it. I think these connectors replace most of that. That's what my connectors are, the exact same information. I have them coming into Teams now, so I actually don't even open that app very often. I now just use my connectors in Teams because it alerts me when something new comes up. So I'm a huge fan of doing that. You can make that team available to, you know, make everybody in your team a member, and they all get it. They just have a channel that's news that feeds in, and you get to control what news. I think those are the types of things I do.
So without question, right, Teams is the future for us, right? And so we're investing resources going in that direction. So I would say adopting that even internally. Then another approach is really more again, geared to the education slant, but we have these programs, Microsoft Innovative Educators, and I can tell you from a successful K-12 rollout is getting that train the trainer model down, right? And to say, okay, we've got to get these core group of people, and then, you know, not mandating as much as, and I was a CTO for a K-12 district, right? So we couldn't pay people to come, but we could maybe give them a new laptop every 2 years, or, you know, some of those benefits that are kind of fringy, right, that you're going to do anyway, right? And say, so if you're committing to adopting and owning Sway or Power Apps or Flow or whatever, and, you know, kind of get those people lined up, or 2 or 3 or a team of, and say, hey, we're going to really own this product, and then whatever else is new kind of around that. So it's hard to say, obviously, what's coming. Frankly, even a lot of the stuff internally we don't know, but adopting that train the trainer model and then letting them kind of be that, which you're doing right now, right, with this advisory forum. This is exactly what this is for, is to be able to do that. And so being able to take a topic a week, and that's, you know, Preston's radio show, or I call it radio show, his Thursday afternoon show, right, of just that, of being able to say, hey, we're going to try to slant on these topics in a given week, do the same thing internally. It's working very well. It's working well for our region because we're just regional at the moment, right?
What hope that helps.
Thanks. Yeah, it does. Thanks.
And we are planning to grow the school.
Yeah.
Any other questions you guys have? I don't see any coming from the online team. Anything else?
Here's one over here.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Here, grab the box behind you.
There's a box. Oh, sorry. They're recording, sorry.
I want one of those. That's the coolest thing. That's my takeaway.
Are there any plans to add live streaming to stream?
So probably not. I can't, you know, it's so hard to say what we're going to do. I can't say. I don't know the answer to that. That's the right answer. But here's what I would tell you is that exists today.
Yep. It's
It's just not part of the sort of free piece that you have. So there's actually Skype meeting broadcasts that exists right now. So a Skype meeting today is limited to about 250 participants. And it's this totally interactive thing inside of Skype, and everybody has to have the Skype client. We talked about the every device everywhere kind of thing. So Skype meeting broadcast is exactly what we built for that, which is only the people who are producers, right? So those people who would actually be sharing their screen or sharing their camera would need Skype for Business. Everybody else is just looking at a web page, and it's a live stream. Up to 10,000 people view it, right? And the video on demand is available immediately after the meeting, so you can take that and push it right into stream. So that's really the way to do it. The cool thing about the way that works, I love this because, you know, I see a Surface Pro right here that has a camera on the back of it, one like this. You've got other little tablets and devices that have those. If you put Skype for Business on a couple of those, right, and you've got maybe one camera like this, whatever, you now have a multi-camera environment. Somebody else has Skype for Business run on their machine, and they're the producer, and they're choosing just from within Skype for Business, no learning curve as to what thing is showing up. And everybody else is just watching what looks like a professional production, and you're just using your laptops and the Skype for Business, right? Pretty amazing in how it works. So I like using that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It also does some of the, you can have add Yammer to it, like I mentioned Yammer, but that real-time persistent chat piece that's going on, so people can ask questions and respond to it while the thing is happening. You can also use Pulse, right, so that you can get real-time sentiment analysis from your audience and feedback during the actual presentation.
What else?
Got time for maybe one more question?
Yeah,
Anybody?
maybe. Is this worth your 2 hours this morning?
Yeah.
Good. And I know a lot, right? And so that's the good and bad of Preston, is that he's all over the place. And so you may leave out of here and go, oh, right? Is wow, right? So I'm glad you recorded it, frankly, so you can go back and review it. But the whole point is, I think, and he summed it up very well, is these things are changing so fast. Internally, you know, we're swimming internally, literally, to try to keep up, because, you know, every time we come out with a new piece, right, it's that we've got programmers behind the scenes, right? They're going to announce a bunch of stuff this week at Ignite, right, or this next week. Well, as soon as they announce it, guess what they're doing? They're Rev 2 in it, right? And so we recognize that, and the pace of change is dramatic, and we know that. And so we certainly appreciate the opportunity to come and to talk to you today, and certainly know that, you know, this doesn't have to be the last time of this. It may be, you know, a while before we get Preston on site again, but we have Skype, right? We have other options of being able to do this, right? We have Chuck, that's right. I only cover 4 states, he covers 15, right? So yeah, that's exactly right. But appreciate your time so much, and certainly look forward to working with you as we move forward. Any other thoughts?
We really appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I really
Appreciate
appreciate the turnout. It's awesome.